Here's another reason why you want to take control of what you're doing.
Everything kind of funnels into the only winning move is not to play the game.
I don't know, guys. This whole thing sounds pre-recorded.
Well, look at us. We're back for episode 61. It's a week later, and we're all still wearing the same clothes. We're all in the same place. We all, I don't know.
We planned it that way.
We did plan it that way. But I want to welcome back Kate, the Duchess of New Jersey, and we're going to talk more about what Kate's all about. But we already talked about all the stuff that got Kate to where she's at now. Now we're going to start talking to Kate about how she got into podcasting, radio, whatever she's been into, how she got to where she is now. But first of all, what I want to say is thank you guys for listening to this podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe to it, and also share it with somebody that you think that might get something out of it, because every time I do these shows, I put in some keywords and stuff like that. Hopefully they help you out, and hopefully they get you funneled into this podcast where you can learn some stuff, because this is a lot different than our morning show. Our morning show's off the hook. We're a little bit more opinionated, a little bit raw, but we actually talk about more decent adult type stuff here. You know, so some I don't know. We're a little bit more conservative, but we're going to get a little bit on the less conservative side and talk about podcasting and stuff, because we all do have podcasts, and podcasting is a very popular means of media today, and it's taking place of news programs. I mean, basically, your mainstream news is going by the wayside because you can't believe anything that they say anymore. So you've got to have places like the Weather Report, the Weather View, the Boomer Bunker, who Duchess is a part of with John Domingo, and other podcasts that are around that can actually get you attuned in, kind of deconstruct the news and kind of make their own opinions and get some real common sense and what do I want to call collaboration with other people that really want to start a discussion and not kind of scream over each other like you would see on like The View or like on Fox and Friends or like on any type of panel that you have on MSNBC or CNN. It's totally ridiculous what we see on the mainstream media. So what better way to get your information and some real decent conversation and some common sense stuff, but then by watching podcasts or listening to podcasts. And Duchess happens to be in the podcasting industry, just like us here at the Weather Report. Christian does his own thing too with a couple of different podcasts that he does. And like I said, I just want to welcome you back, Duchess, for another episode.
Oh, thank you for having me back.
Yeah, that's great. And you're looking fabulous, just like you did last week.
Thank you. I do my best. It's the best you got.
So let's continue on with the conversation. Not that we were having before, but to start a new conversation about this media thing that we're into. So you started out with blogging, started out with writing opinion pieces and commentaries in your local publications and stuff like that. What was your first experience in podcasting? Where were you at? That definitely wasn't with John, right?
No. Well, John, this is my first podcast.
That was your first podcast.
Ever podcast.
Okay.
Is
so how did you get involved with podcasts? Because there's a story behind there.
There's always a story, right? So I listened to a local podcaster, who was used to be on the radio, through circumstances, ended up on his own particular podcast, and met a ton of people through it. Like that was actually like a core friend group that we would, again, the group that I would Zoom with, we would have drinks and have a good time and all that. And John, this particular podcaster, had talked about a meltdown and played John Domingo having his donut, fat rant, which you can probably find anywhere. And it was my co-host, my now co-host, for having an absolute epic meltdown with his podcast partners at the time. Absolutely lost his mind and rage quit the show. So the podcaster that I was listening to at the time played that, and I thought that's amazing, because it was just one flow of just fury. It he couldn't have written it that way. Everything just came out at that emotional rant, and it was wonderful. And he ended up having John and his partner at the time, Boomer Bob, on, and then so they became kind of active listeners, and there was a side chat and all that. So I ended up listening to him and listening to some of John's shows, and then just got friendly. We would chit chat occasionally back and forth. And to the point where, I knew where he was, like in Jersey, and we had, friendly conversation and stuff. And he said, you should try podcasting sometime. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And so one time he had messaged me. He said, hey, we were chatting about Bob, and he said, Bob can't make the show. I was like, oh, you should let me come on and co-host. He goes, well, why don't you? And I went, okay, and figured it out, and drove to his house, into his podcast dungeon, which he calls it, which is his basement, which is an amazing setup down there.
Yes, I've seen it. It's amazing.
And podcast from there. And then I kind of drifted in occasionally as a guest, and then became a third mic. And then at one point, Bob decided to leave the show through nothing aggressive or anything like that. He's took a step back, and then John and I continued, and here we are.
What podcasts did you start listening to that made you maybe interested and maybe wanted to do this? I mean, you had to be listening to podcasts before.
There was a few here and there, but I didn't know much about it. And I think I basically listened to comedians. So like Tom Papa, Bill Burr for a while, couple others, and I liked the camaraderie that seemed to be behind it. It's just, it was a fun, casual, it was just like listening into a casual conversation. And I enjoyed, it seemed so relaxed, and there's no pressure. And like I'd said on the last episode, I'm a chatty person. And that, I know, shocking, right? But I get on with most people, and I can carry a conversation with a lot of people. What I do for work involves a lot of phone calls and talking with our customers and things like that. And it just seemed like it was fun. And people had always said, you have a pretty good radio, you have a voice, you should do a voice for radio, or you should do commercials or any kind of like recording, whatever. So, and I was like, oh yeah, sure. But so when John had dangled the bait, so to speak, I was like, if I sound okay, and he's like, perfect, you're fine. I got, you're fine. But it was my nerves were a little shaky. Like I'm still always nervous before I go on at any podcast. So in the back of my head, I'm like, don't mess up. So, but so I just listened to nobody important, just
nobody important, right?
Stumbled on. There was nobody that motivated me that I was like, I want to do this. I must podcast. There's nobody that scratched that itch. I didn't, which I didn't know I had until I talked to John about it.
Yeah. I have no idea why I started a podcast, other than the fact that I guess, I was a minister in a church for a while, and that's kind of was the first time I ever had like exposure to, talking to a captive audience, to say the least. I mean, it was, anywhere from 150 to, maybe 200 kids on a Sunday morning. And they were that's a captive audience. So you got them there and stuff like that. And then I always did music. So I was into music. So I was into performing in front of people too. So, I mean, that kind of got me there, but I don't remember why I started to say, okay, let's do a podcast. Let's just talk about crap, and stuff like that.
Church door should be, Bruce, the church door shouldn't lock from the outside only.
Yeah.
I don't know that captive audience in church is exactly the right way to phrase it.
They were pretty captive. The kids were pretty captive.
Literally.
It's kind of a Jim Jones kind of thing going on.
I wouldn't say children were captive, but that probably wouldn't be a good thing to say.
The parents would drop them off and go, they're yours.
Maybe I'll be back.
It just keeps getting deeper and deeper here.
Sounds so much worse when you keep saying that.
I know. Should we put the disclaimer on?
The hole.
We start the disclaimer before the show. Is that what we should do?
You need one, I think.
Exactly.
I'm glad you witness on the stand later.
Yeah.
I had no knowledge of this.
But no, I mean that's pretty much where I got the inkling, I guess the calling to say the least of public speaking and be able to speak in this forum and be able to be in front of a camera or anything else like that. So I mean, I don't know if I have that voice. I've been told that you got a nice voice. I mean, to tell you the truth, I think Christian has like almost the perfect radio voice. We also had
He has an
Chris
excellent voice.
Harkos.
Yeah.
Chris Harkos, who was on here, our first co-host for a while, he had a beautiful radio voice. And when I first heard your voice, Duchess, I went like, oh my God, you got I swear, you have the perfect
Oh, thank you.
podcast radio voice. You have that radio voice. So nobody was bullshitting you when you did that. I mean, you could do voiceovers, you could do the stuff like that. Did
I
you
always
ever
wanted to, but I never knew
have you
how to.
been, that's what I was going to ask. Have you had any inkling or kind of delve into that to see if you could do anything like that?
I wish I could. I wish I had the opportunity, at least when I thought about it. But
You've got all the equipment you need right now to do that.
it's probably true.
No, really, you do. The equipment you're using right now is good enough. You could do VO from home.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing you may need to do is throw a cloth in front of you.
I think so. I think I do tend to be. I'm still a little echoey in here.
Well, but it's very subtle.
Okay.
But because I'm me, when you
that's what you listened for. So.
But when you get a little bit louder, I can hear just a hint. It's very subtle.
Okay.
But you have the equipment there. You could do it.
I will have to look into it. I would like to. I always sounded very interesting to me. And I actually had one job, if you remember, when you would call into, those 1-800 numbers, not those that you're thinking of.
You mean
No. I'm going to back
Hold
up.
on.
It was actually
575 night train number.
no, not 1-900 numbers. 1-800 numbers. It was
1-900 night train.
I used to work for a company that sold computers. It was Mac Warehouse. And so people would call up and place, their order, because with Macs, you couldn't just buy them anywhere. So they would call up and I would be like, thank you for calling. And people would always ask where I was from. And I would say New Jersey. And most of the people didn't believe me. If I modulate and I'm aware of how I'm saying things, I don't sound like I'm from New Jersey, how most people think New Jersey sounds. But a couple drinks or, get super animated, I drift into talk and coffee and this and that.
Oh, goodness.
but for the most part, I do hear it. I'm more aware of it now, especially now that I'm on the air, so to speak. But I do hear it because I do listen back to a lot of my shows or a lot of shows that I'm on, just because it's a lot. I just want to hear what I sound like. And of course, I critique myself very heavily. So I'm like, oh, I should have said this. I shouldn't say it like that. Or
I get really angry about the morning show and some of the stuff I get back on and go like, who is doing that in the background? It was never gonna just stop.
It's so rough.
Just rage,
Can I just throw in here? This is me without any processing. Do I sound different?
You sound less.
I turned all the processing off on my.
You turn all the processing off. You've got a little bit more, I don't know, noise.
Oh, my fans on my computer is running at full speed because whatever.
That's probably what we hear. But
anyway, so this is normal me. And I just want you to know, because it made me crazy when I heard him say it. I'll turn this back on.
You sound deeper with it on.
He does.
Well, it's supposed to. It's got a big bass thing. It's a Rode. It's first gen of the Rode.
The same thing I do. Turn the bass all the way up. Turn the treble all the way down, and mid range is somewhere around 3. So
because I know he's going to listen to this, I made sure to maximize the vocal fry.
Oh my God, that's so awesome!
I don't know. You're kind of an asshole.
I'm not even trying right now, Bruce.
It's like not kinda.
But that is one of the things. Who came up with the intro to the boom, or not the intro, but the disclaimer for the Boomer Bunker? That is the funniest disclaimer that I think I've ever heard in my life.
I think Bob wrote it actually, and before the show it would be him saying it, and then when I came on board, I just re-recorded it. I would like to re-record it because when I listen to it, I'm like, I don't like the way it sounds. but well, because I hear where I made a mistake, and the problem is
Okay.
I read it verbatim,
Mhm.
and it was not. Anyway, I can be persnickety about it, so I'm going to re-record it again and send
You
it to
can
John,
polish it up a little bit,
just to polish it a little,
just a
but
little bit.
just a teeny bit.
How good are you with editing?
Me, not at
Yeah.
all.
Okay. And I don't. I'm going to
No.
step on toes here.
Go ahead.
If you want help editing, because I do that.
Okay.
Let me help
That's
you
what
with
John
editing.
does for a living.
Okay.
Well, it's
That's what John does for a living.
Yeah. John edits everything.
Well, then you can
I
really
just-
piss him off and send it to me. Hey, John, I managed to pull this out of my ass the other day, and see what you think.
I had someone else handle it for me. He might be highly offended, but he would laugh. So he's got a sense of humor.
That might be the one that slips him into the oblivion. So who knows?
We won't yell about donuts. I'll go Christian, 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 whatever.
He might.
Let's talk about the Boomer Bunker. So the
Sure.
first time you met John,
Yes.
what was your impression of John?
Well, through discussion or in person?
Through in person. I mean, through discussion, we know that you've been discussing this
Right.
with him through chat rooms and stuff
Oh,
like that.
absolutely.
But I mean, when was the first time you heard his voice, personally, ear to ear, and then meeting him for the first time? How was that?
Oh, he's a doll. I love him. He's he's just phenomenal. We would message back and forth. We would chit chat, and then once we started talking about the Boomer Bunker, and me appearing, then there's some phone conversation. He knew what I sounded like. He would jump on the Zoom calls because John got very friendly within that Zoom group, and he would pop on. So I knew what he looked like. He knew what I looked like. We talked, so I knew him. But then once we started talking more about the Boomer
Talking.
Bunker and things
some
like
coffee.
kind of, yeah, exactly.
Driving
Things
in my car.
lining up that way, we do like messages and things. We communicate more directly. But I didn't get a chance to meet him, I think, in person until, oh my gosh, it was, well, one year a friend of mine had flown out from Michigan, and I had said, we really would love to meet you in person. And this is before I became like a permanent anything. It was for the Boomer Bunker, and it was still more friendly before I'd gotten onto the show. And so my girlfriend had come in, we bopped around, and we had met him for dinner. And he was just lovely. So, and very charming. Of course, he paid for our dinner, wouldn't even consider us paying.
Yeah.
But, and then we would chit chat since then. And, and then we just kind of drifted into the bunker. But he's such a good dude. I'm really very lucky. He handles a lot of this. I just get to show up and be like, blah, blah.
There you go.
I know.
And that's the way it should be.
I'm very appreciative of what he does.
And
Really.
that's the way it should be. Yeah, John's a very nice guy. I mean, I've had discussions off camera with him and things like that. He's very just personable guy.
He really
He's definitely different. He's different on camera than he is off camera, which is most people are. Well, I won't say most people are. His personality shines through both ways.
Yes.
If you know what I mean. And because we tend to be a little bit more animated with ourselves when we're on camera or if we're on the mic and stuff like that, which is really cool. I mean, one of the animations I love, there's two things I love about your animation. Two things. Number one's your giggle. The other one is your rolling of the eyes, looking up at those are the two things that I think are the most prevalent that I see when I'm watching the Boomer Bunker. And I don't listen to the Boomer Bunker. I watch the Boomer Bunker on Wednesday or on Mondays and Thursdays and sometimes Wednesdays and whenever.
when we have to float them back and forth.
We gotta float them back and forth. But you have such a presence there when that happens that I think that kind of delights the audience. It delights me because that's one of the things that I kind of look forward to. Even at the end of the morning show, you give the little giggle, so that always makes it into
so
the
bad.
morning show.
I'm always laughing by the end of the show. I just can't help it. I'm sorry. You can edit me out, please.
Because we're having such a good time.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
it's always a fun show.
Yeah, it is. But so tell me about the so did you know what you were getting into when you got into the Boomer Bunker? Because it's so much different than any other show that you can even listen to.
Yes.
I mean, there is some parody shows out there. There's some comedy shows,
Right.
But this kind of blends in comedy, news, politics, religion. I mean, every every subject under the sun.
Whatever strikes us. Yeah.
And
Really.
and sometimes it just strikes you like a bolt of lightning. What do you think about that format?
I like it actually. I think it's fun. I see some shows that are very traditional in what they do because now I pay more attention to podcasts and I follow so many more. And I listen to their format and listen how they do things. And I think the way the Boomer Bunker does it is it's like whatever the topic is that we just riff. Half the times it's just when we share on our notes back and forth, it's just he'll mention something and reference an article and that's it. So we don't outline, you take this point, I take that point. Sometimes
Mhm.
I don't know what he's bringing. So, and he enjoys that because
Oh, he
he's like,
does.
I just want to throw it and see what you think. And he'll play something. I'm like, oh my God. Like he'll completely knock me off for a loop. But it's so much fun. And I enjoy that because our reactions, we're not really scripted. We don't script anything. Their reaction, like my reactions are pretty much always my reaction. He always surprises me with something. Um, it's a little gross sometimes. We're very not kid friendly.
Yeah.
And it's definitely adult conversation. We curse, we yell at each other. And I think the audience likes it. It's a lot of fun. He's always afraid I'm mad at him. I'm not, but
There has been some contentious times for
well,
sure.
yes, for sure. And at the moment, but that's also what he likes to do. He throws it at the wall and see what sticks. But my reactions are always pretty much what you see is what you get, sort of a thing. But I like that, and sometimes I catch him every once in a while. I'll catch him off guard, and just sometimes some of the stories are just so funny. Like I just can't help but laugh. And there's been a few.
All his elevator stuff is just
Oh,
hilarious.
his elevator stories are. I keep telling him, I was like, you need to do a book or something. Like there's books that you don't read because he doesn't like to read. And that's a whole nother. It's just a thing.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah, it really is. But I love him. He's a great guy, and his elevator stories are amazing. It's like everyone he tells, I'm like, that's insane. And then he tells the next one, I'm like, that's even crazier. And
Yeah.
I don't know how he remembers them all, really.
So you watched the Boomer Bunker and listened to the Boomer Bunker
Mhm.
before you were part of the show.
Yeah, I did.
What was your first reaction to the first time you had to react? I mean, that had to be, I've been with John on the show. So I mean, not on the Boomer Bunker, but on my show. And it's sometimes you just go, oh,
Yeah.
but I mean,
John will sometimes pop out with something. I'm just like, oh my God, like disavow. Like I can't, but it's refreshing. Maybe it's just, there's always a discussion. And the first few times I was on the show, more as like that third mic, I felt like I was refereeing between the two dads. I'm like, my dads are fighting. Like, why are we? And they would yell at each other. And I'm like, hey, maybe we should go to the show. And they're like, just let us fight. And I'm like, okay. And I would just sit back and they'd yell it out. And then I would just sit there like, I don't know what to do. They just yell at each other and move on. But the first time I watched them, I was like, oh my goodness, it was funny. And it was interesting. And it was like, I enjoyed listening to the news conversations. And while I don't agree with everything politically that either at the time that John or Bob would come up with, it was still good conversation. Right. And I'm like, I never thought of it that way, or that's a different point of view. So it was good to listen. And I'm a little more of a, I'm not, I'll say conservative, but I kind of hover in the middle, really. So I can see things from both sides. I'm not totally to the right.
I think most of us do when we're on there. I mean, you have to, unless you're going to be totally, one show or another show, you got to float in the middle, or you're just going to lose everybody kind of, looking for something fresh. And,
no, I mean, personally, me, I float in the middle. John is.
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The same thing. I said,
I got you.
That's what I'm looking at. Right. So I try to keep in the middle just for that fact, that I try to attract people from,
of course,
the alternative side that they think that I'm on, to come on to the show and voice their opinions and stuff. Still haven't been successful on the morning show on that, but we'll get there one of these days.
They're always
But,
welcome to stop in, right?
exactly. Always welcome to stop in. But yeah, going forward with this, so being on kind of like an all guys type conversation.
Yes.
Really. I mean, how does it feel like being the female in a male conversation? I mean, a dominant male conversation. It's got to be something different.
I find it fun. I'm not threatened by guys. I'm sorry, my camera is all wonky here. I'm not threatened. I kind of thrive on it, actually.
Mhm.
I enjoy the conversation. A lot of times I will listen. Like I like to, and then of course, like in the morning when sometimes you'll throw something out or Jason or Ken will just throw something out that's like so like macho. I'm like, stop. Like, oh, but I know like it's showtime, like it's fun. And
Are
it's
we
always
talking about the same Jason and Ken?
the ones
Yeah,
that
they're
aren't here.
Macho stuff?
Yes, the ones that aren't here, our other co-hosts. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
I was
when
like,
they
no, this is great. I maybe I have to listen to the show occasionally in the morning.
it's fun. You should jump in.
Yeah, you got to be on the X. You got to get on the X. Get yourself an X contract. Yeah, you're on the X, so you follow me. So you just got to come on the
don't
show.
look at it ever because it's X.
Well, then, that's what you got, man. What can I tell you?
I apologize for derailing the conversation once again.
know.
Keep going. This is why I don't talk much because I don't know, try to be funny and it just screws it up.
You were fine.
So,
it-
so all of us are married here. So does your husband listen to the podcast, or does he ever?
I don't think so.
Yeah. My wife doesn't either. I mean,
Yeah.
my family would be shocked. I mean, some of my family do listen to podcasts. My mother-in-law is listening to or not listening to this podcast because this is just a recording. But usually the live podcast she's on, and she finds it very interesting.
Okay.
But she would be shocked on the
Mm.
morning show.
The morning show's a little rough,
The
but
morning show is so much different.
it's fun. Well, it's I think because I don't want to say it's like controlled chaos because it's hard to know when somebody wants to speak because you can't see. Like,
Right.
so it's kind of like an honor system. As somebody starts to talk, everybody kind of backs off, but it's like, sometimes it's like three people at once, like jump in. So that I think is probably the only difficult part about it. It's just trying to figure out who's speaking where, but sometimes it's chaos but it's so funny though. And just sometimes the remarks and the jokes and things that just fly out of it are just awesome.
Yeah.
I just sit and laugh. Like sometimes I'm just laughing through it. Like the whole time I'm like, oh my God, what am I listening to? But it's fun. It's just fun.
Exactly. So you say that you and John really kind of you've got a couple of little blurbs, and that's kind of what I do in the morning is I take a couple of little blurbs and then I'll bring them out, and people can either comment or not comment on them, but there's no dialogue. There's no script or anything. I think that's a pretty cool way to do your podcast and stuff like that. But there's got to be some gotcha moments either from you or from him, because we've seen it. If you watch the podcast, you can see either the fire start or the head come down.
Yeah.
Tell me some of your funniest or maybe some of your most disturbing times during there, because we know that there's a couple of people that you do like. I mean, we'll talk about you like Johnson, of course, Mike Johnson.
Oh,
And you're a big Mike Rowe fan.
Oh, Mike Rowe.
And a couple of little parodies have come through those.
Oh,
and
yeah. So John, I get embarrassed easily, which is funny because I participate with you guys, but it's just sometimes when he throws something very specific, I'm like, oh my God, it's so disgusting. I still laugh, but in my head, I'm like, oh my God, like it's just overwhelming. And I think John, like kind of plucks on that a little bit, which is funny because the reactions are very funny from other people. They seem to enjoy like me getting kind of thrown off a bit. He did a couple. There's a gentleman who helps us with our show, and his name's Mike, and we call him Producer Mike. And he hangs out in the background and stuff. But he did a lot of parodies. He put stuff together because he just enjoys it. And he took my voice, ran it through AI, and came up with a couple really disgusting songs. But they made it with all of the snippets of my voice through AI, and made me say terrible things. I'm like, I don't say these things, but it certainly sounds like I did. But I guess the only bonus is when they used my voice for those things is I was on podcasting. I was sick, so my voice was noticeably like a little bit deeper. But that's how I can tell. But if nobody ever listened to the show and just heard that, they'd be like, she's disgusting.
This girl is disgusting.
And I
You
guess
even
and it was all when what is it? Kennedy was reading those disgusting books that they were taking from the libraries.
I love it.
So they they took that context, that book, and then just had it run through with my voice as the AI as reading it. So yeah, it's gross, but it's fun. It's funny. People they like play it again. I'm like, oh, don't play it again. And John's like, of course. And boop, here it comes on. But I've read.
You do a lot of reading.
Yeah,
on
he
the
has me
podcast.
read.
You do a lot of interesting reading on the podcast, live and in person.
It's terrible. He has me do Trump tweets, and they're awful because I don't sound like Trump. But
How did that come about?
I
Tell us about how
don't know.
that came about. How did you get the Trump thing?
I don't know how I landed on that part. I think it's because when Trump, he does that, that whole like, I'm Donald Trump, kind of a thing. And it's just funny. And John would do it. And then I would do it. And we just kind of laugh about it. And then someone had said, oh, Kate should read. I don't even know how it evolved, but to the point where, that Kate is now going to read. So John will pull up these tweets from Donald Trump, and I have to read them in my Trump voice, which is awful. And some of them are ridiculous. And then some of them are long. Like he'll pop and I don't know what they're going to be. So it could be like, there's a goofy one for Easter. And then there's one that had to have been, it was like 2 paragraphs. I'm like, oh my God, I can't read this. And again, the joke is I don't do it well. So it's funny. I have a couple friends
John
of mine.
doesn't read well either. So I mean,
well, yeah, it's a trade-off.
We've gone through that plenty of times where John can't read at all. I mean, the guys,
Yes, so he has me read these. I have friends that message me. They say, "Oh no, they're great." I'm like, "Are they great because they sound good or because I'm uncomfortable?" And they're like, "Yes, yes to both." And I'm like, "God darn it," But he has me read like double entendre stories,
the dirty books,
the dirty books
the
that
dirty
like aren't
children's
dirty.
books, the dirty
Yeah.
children's books. Are they really
Yeah.
dirty? They're not really dirty
Yeah.
if you like just read them, but
But they're filthy. They're filthy if
Um,
you're an adult. They're funny.
I just had an idea.
Uh-oh.
You've seen this before because I know that there's at least 2 women out there doing this. They read books that are supposed to ruin your childhood memories or whatever.
Yeah, I
On
think that's
Instagram,
me.
they open the page like they're reading to.
those are the ones.
Your voice would work great for that.
Yeah, they do. They work great. They do.
You could
The
be
boomer. Yeah.
you could be Instagram wealthy
Oh, I need to
Reading-
channel that.
Duchess.
reading
That's
books.
just the OnlyFans. In fact, this episode will be called Duchess After Dark. So I mean.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Rare. Should we dim the lights?
The
Put some mood
show.
lighting in.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Christian has all the good stuff. He's got all the good effects. Let's put it that way.
Nice.
I
The
still have to push the
show, the
button,
Boomer
though.
Bunker. The show, the Boomer Bunker, is very interactive. In fact,
Yes.
during the show, we have quite a chat room going on. So tell us a little bit on some of the highlights and the lowlights that you've seen in the chat room.
There, the chat is a lot of fun. It was originally, that's how I would chat with John and Bob during the show when they were doing the Boomer Bunker. Is this the chat? Like we would just have our own. There was just a large group of us, and we would just interact and snarky comments and just whatever they would say, and then they would look at the comments, and then which might be a few minutes later, and maybe not get what it correlated to or anything like that. So they would read some of them, but it didn't quite, work, I guess, when they were doing it.
Yeah, it wasn't synced. Yeah.
Yeah. And now, and the problem is for John, he's a little like ADHD. So he gets distracted by the comments. Like he'll start, and because he preps a lot, like he does Like he may not write every identical, like everything we're going to discuss, but he has a line of what he wants to talk about, but he preps audio. Like, so he prepares a lot for the show.
I've learned a lot from John. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've learned a lot.
he's fantastic. Really, I don't do much but show up and laugh at stuff. I mean, God bless him. He's a great guy for allowing me to do that. And so the chat, I'm like, let me help. Please let me help with something. So I manage the chat, and basically I'm the one that highlights the funnier. They're all funny. It's difficult to pick some over others, you know. So when the show starts, you know, people pop in and say hi. I try to highlight that, you know. And then when we're on a particularly good topic and we go back and forth, and there's some comments that are on it that really make sense, I try to highlight them and bring them up during the show. But John shuts them down because if he looked at him, he'd be in the midst of something and just kind of like drift off. And I'm like, no, come back. And he's like, no, like the comments. And he like starts scrolling. I'm like, but you're reading them. So at least this way I can kind of help with something. But the comments are amazing. And, you know, you're in the comments. Sometimes Ken's in there, occasionally Jason or Aaron, and then just the crew regulars that would show up.
And Budbugger.
Oh, I love Budbugger. They're all great, you know. And everybody plays together. Like, so if one person says something, then people just kind of build on it. And I love the people in our comments that have a really good rapport with each other. And then they also like send emails or do pranks or just silly things. And they send John art. Like some of the things that come through are just ridiculous. And people are, it's awesome. And, you know, the interactive part is really just what makes it so much fun.
Yeah, and you really have an interactive group that is off of the show itself. You got a Discord server that everybody is involved in. In fact, I'm involved in that a lot. And
there's a few folks in there that just have a good old time.
There's a few folks in there, and it's a real fun Discord server. So I mean, how does that shape? I mean, that really does shape some of the shows, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. So there's a lot of topics that get put in there that John's like, oh, we're using that. And he's like, he takes it over and brings it into the show. Even just the topics, or, you know, sometimes now it's at the point where people send them directly to John. Budbugger especially will send things to John. He's like, play this, do that, do this. And John, so some of the things that John will pop up again that I'm unaware of, like Budbugger sent me this, and he pops something up and I'm like, oh my God, that's terrible. But they're funny. And you know, that's how he finds a lot of subjects, topics, pictures, you know, just silly stuff.
Yeah, I think we all have the same X feed sometimes because, you know, so I'll get there. God damn it, I was going to post that. You know?
We tend to trend on the same areas. So every once in a while, I have to click on a lot of like puppies and beach pictures and things like that just to kind of refresh the feed. Because I'm like, I can't keep looking at sad, depressing, like sometimes politics. I'm like, I can't do anymore. I need happy things. You know, so I'll start clicking on my football teams, or I'll look at baseball, or just anything, just palate cleanse it a bit. Like the draft was.
Let's talk about that for a little bit, because, you know, podcasting is, you know, with me every day, I have to do a podcast every morning. I love podcasting. That's the whole thing. I got into this hobby. I wanted to make it a business. One of these days I'll make it a business and I'll get lots of money doing this thing. Maybe I'll be a Joe Rogan, who knows? But the fact of the matter is that, you know, I've got to do this because it's fun. I've got a mobile studio that's in my RAV4 every morning, and that's how I do the morning show. And it has a lot to do with politics. It has a lot to do with being in tune with things every day. And I'm telling you, I mean, Aaron's done the same thing with the I've Had to Say It podcast. And it gets depressing after a while, having to look at the news and be aware of things that are going on around you, and then being very opinionated about what you believe in and about what you really want to talk about. So there's sometimes you have to step back and stay away. And what I've been kind of interjecting into podcasts is I'll start out with the national days. So what's kind of the national
days?
It
was always fun.
Yeah. And then we'll go into a little bit of, you know, serious discussion with politics and stuff, but then I'll try to end with something like, you know, the old people smell, like we did the other day.
Oh my God,
or the bucket list or something like that, just to try to keep things balanced out to where, you know, that algorithm is
so heavy.
Yeah, it's not so heavy one way or the other. And I think there's a lot to be said for when we do podcasting, that we have to step back out of reality. We have to look at the puppies. I got to look at, I'm like John. I love sprint cars. So I'll purposely click on sprint car stuff for videos and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I love dogs, so dogs things, that kind of gets my algorithm back into a way that
Yeah.
I just don't see the crap all the time. And I guess you've got to do the same thing.
Yeah, there's sometimes I'm not on X for the day. Like I'm just like, I'm good. Like I'll post like I post in the morning, like at the gym, I post something funny or like a meaningful graphic or some kind of GIF or something. And because for me, that's like my motivation check-in. Like I'll like, all right, I'm gonna start my day. I'll scroll through the feed. Sometimes when I'm on the treadmill, I'll be able to, save some stories for later. I, drop them in the Discord. John and I have a Discord where we share news. So but yeah, sometimes I'm like, I can't look at it. It's just sad. It's war, it's hate crimes, it's people just being awful to each other. I'm like, X will show everything. And
Mhm.
sometimes I'm not prepared to see the full effect of some of these videos. And they don't end nicely. And a couple of them I've really gotten like I've been on the treadmill and I was like, like I had like such an audible rap. People turned
Right.
and looked at me because I was like, I was not expecting. And I'm like, I'm gonna shut this
Mhm.
because I can't. And now because that will populate my feed, just these terrible tragedies and things. And I have to step away from that.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
try not to do that. And I just again, puppies and happy things,
Right.
food recipes, anything just to
Right.
not
Now,
be
not
bummed
to
out.
not to try to pry too much into the personal aspect
Mhm.
of this between like husband and wife and stuff like that. But do you have to find time just to step back because you got to spend time with the family. You got to have a good attitude for the family, and you got to be in a positive mind. And sometimes our families act wacky because of what's going on, and
Mm,
our families question what we do, like we're
yes.
doing here or in the morning show. So, I mean, there's sometimes my wife goes, "Well, what'd you talk on the morning show about?" I'm like, "You really don't want on the morning show." But
Yeah.
at the in the same fact, I've got to tell her, and then sometimes I guess what I want to know is that does this sometimes affect your attitude here or there, or do you try to keep it away, or do you find it
Yeah.
hard sometimes to separate that? I guess.
I try to separate it. I really do. It's like like the podcast world and then like my day to day.
Mhm.
But they intertwine so much. Like I
Yeah.
wake up and then I do my things and then I jump on with your show and then I do sometimes I'll listen to other podcasts during the day or I'll find articles to share. But I try not to make that everything. Like when I
Mhm.
get home, I try to like I don't want to say disconnect, a little disassociate,
Yeah.
disconnect from being plugged in, and actually talk to my husband for a little while. Like, hey, dude, nice to see you. But our schedules are so busy. Like, we both leave early in the mornings, and he's tired when he gets home. I'm tired when I get home. Like, so my girls are out of the house, so it's just us empty nesters. So if my girls were home, I probably wouldn't be as involved in this.
Mhm.
I really picked this up once they kind of left the house. I think they know I podcast. I don't think they know what or where or all about it. I'm sure they could look and find it. It's not that hard,
Yeah.
but I don't go out of my way to share it. I
Right.
think my youngest would probably be like, my oldest, yeah, there'd be problems. So
Yeah.
just because politically, we don't agree on a lot of things. I love them. I adore them. I'm very
Right.
lucky. I'm very blessed. I have wonderful children who are unfortunately also very opinionated and like to think on their own, which is so rude. Uh,
Don't you
at
know what I do?
25 and 28, that they actually want to think for themselves.
Yeah. Don't you know what I do for a hobby?
Do you know who I know? Do you know who I am? I'm the Duchess. They don't give a shit. Like they don't, they're in their own things. They're doing
Yeah.
their own thing. And
Yeah.
that I was able once my girls moved out and I backed out of a lot of let them go because I
Mhm.
was involved in so many things,
Mhm.
volunteering and at all different capacities. I'm like, I can let this stuff go. Like
Mhm.
I don't need to stress about some of these. So things just kind of started dropping off. And then as this kind of happened, I'm like, well, you know what? This is my new fun, my new toy, my new hobby. And I've met such awesome people. Like I can't even begin to tell you how many great. I mean, you
Do you know
guys are
do you know how
just
many
fantastic.
do you know how many shows that you've been on?
Um,
Different other
maybe
different
like
other
half a
podcasts.
dozen. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Because you've been doing what have you done 2 shows on this, the, shitty song of the week?
Oh, I love Shitty Song of the Week. Yeah, that's
It's
a lot of fun.
fantastic.
They're so much fun. Those guys are great. I've jumped on some of the ones that we shout out. I've been on, and then just for fun. It's just I'll I don't want to say I'll go on anybody's show, but I love to meet different people.
Yeah.
And for me, there's been some folks I've been on that they're definitely like my kids' age. But they're like, we really want to talk to you. And I'm like, I'm flattered, like, because I'm like your old mom. Like, there's no like I'm somebody's mom. Like, I'm not anything phenomenal. So I'm like, sure.
Show.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. I feel bad. But it's funny, there's a lot of people I chat with through Discord that I'm like, I know I'm momming them. Like I'll reach out. I'm like, hey, how you doing today? Like, did you eat? Have you left the house? Are you feeling okay? Like I touch base because I don't hear from them. And I worry. I worry.
I see that in some of your replies.
Yep.
You're just like, oh, she's in a nurturing mode.
I can't help it.
Sometimes I want to reply back, and I just like, nope, I'm not going to do it because then Duchess will think I'm an asshole. But
no, I'll yell at you. That's okay.
Yeah, you'll yell at me. Come on, boys.
I can't.
No, it's I really like other shows too. I've had the privilege to be on a couple of other shows too, but is there any shows that you really? I mean, we're independent podcasters, so I mean, basically, really, who's listening to us? There's a small amount of people to look for, and we try to advertise ourselves out. We don't do a lot of promotional things or spend the big money to get our voices out there. But I think it's fun being an independent because anybody can find us and anybody can listen up. Have you ever had the inklings that maybe you wanted to go on a Joe Rogan or a
oh my God,
or even the Dirty Jobs, with
I'd be terrified. It's funny, like again, I know I get nervous like in anticipation, like I stress worry, just like I hope I sound okay, I hope my mic's okay, I hope I don't have any issues. And I try to prepare for what I can. And I don't know, like with Joe Rogan, I think he's such a dominant personality, but he lets people talk, which I do appreciate. Because sometimes his guests will go on and on. But Mike Rowe, I'm a big fan of his, but I absolutely love his pod. He's very engaging and he talks to everybody. He will talk to the person who's a dishwasher. He'll talk to somebody who's the president. Like he will go and he is the same person in every aspect, no matter who he's talking to. And that I find admirable. Like he's not an ass kisser. He doesn't, he doesn't suck up, but he's not rude about it. And he's just has a very natural way of getting people to talk to him, which I'm kind of envious of because I think that's great. Like just to have that comfortability. He's a TV guy, so I guess that's part of that. But he's very, it's admirable, I think.
Do we care to talk about the initials EZ?
I'm not a fan, so do we have to?
What is the beef? I mean, I feel the tension in between Domingo, you, John. What is the beef? Tell us a little story about.
All right, he's what? Well, the only thing I'm gonna say, I'm no longer a fan of his show. There was some falling outs. I was a big fan of his show. He was a radio guy. He's the one that ended up on a podcast.
Were you on your show or you just kind of?
No, I was a fan. That's how I met everybody.
Gotcha. Okay.
Was because of this. So if anything, I'm grateful, which I hate to say, I'm grateful to him for me being able to meet everybody that I've met. So that's what I'll give him credit for. He's just a podcast guy. He's kind of jerky, and for whatever his things are, it's really hard. It got to be very personal, attacky. He doxed me a couple times.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah.
I don't approve of. Of course, claims it's all public information. I'm like, well, it's not public to everybody, but thank you for making it public and then sharing information about like where my husband works and so like that's not. If you have a beef, then you take it up with me. I didn't like it. You get on and say very derogatory things about me. Make fun of my weight. And that. But it's like you're a grown man. Like we're the same age. Like this is not high school. Like this happened like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like seriously.
Yeah, he's a grown man.
Go punch this asshole in the face.
I'd love to. Well, it's funny because I go back.
John
There
has
you
his
go.
own. John
There you
has
go.
his own
There's
thing
your
with
next
him, so-
routine. Go punch this asshole in the face.
I go back to Michigan to visit a bunch of friends once a year, and I'm like, you know what? I know where he lives. I mean, he would never say it to my face.
First.
Yeah,
As
he
she
would
says,
never
as she
say it.
says, she would
Yeah.
throat punch him.
Oh, I would. Oh, I'm about that tall, but he's a little fucker too. Oh, sorry.
That's what belongs here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a little bugger. So I mean, I could well, if I get a couple good punches in, I could probably take him. But I don't know. It's the whole ridiculousness of a grown man behaving that way to a multitude of people. And I backed away from the show and just like kind of unfriended and everything. And he like blocked, cut me down, said terrible things about me to other people. I'm like, really?
Do you think it was professional jealousy or anything like that? Or was it just a personal thing? I mean,
no, for him, it was personal. He took it very personally. And there was I wasn't even podcasting then. Like I was just I was a fan of his show.
That's kinda,
like a big fan.
That is kind of weird about going after a fan like that. That's extremely.
There's a lot that led up to it, and
extreme. So.
Yeah,
that's too bad.
There was a lot there, and was I 100% innocent? No, but I didn't go around like putting his.
Right.
The reaction from what it was it got to the point where I was just like, we're done. Like, I don't need this.
I mean, sometimes you'll make a comment and by the time you're in too deep and then it's all about now you got to backtrack or whatever.
Yeah.
And whoever goes off. It's kind of, it's a dog eat dog world sometimes. It really is.
Yeah. I try not to discuss them with John because John thrives on it. John loves it.
Oh yeah, exactly. I've heard his rants about it. So
yeah. Well, and it's funny because John's like, I don't care what he says about me, but what that guy does is he doesn't go after John. He'll go after me or he'll go after other people. And he knows that makes John crazy.
He knows that'll push his buttons, right?
He does. And I appreciate John. John's very protective of his friends. And because he says, to do this, you have to have a thick skin. Like people will say dumb things and will come after you or just because they can or they want to, and I'm nobody. I'm just some schmuck with a mic, like whatever, but it was like this, it became this weird vendetta sort of thing. And I feel bad because the rift between him and then other people, it kind of split up some friendships, which was sad because there's a lot of people I was very friendly with and everybody like kind of took sides. And I'm like, all right, well, that's okay. Because I'm not going to go out of my way.
Yeah. I know when I see you post on social media, not the Discord, but on social media, you really don't mix the two.
I try not to.
Which is wonderful. Because myself, I wear my heart on my sleeve.
Yeah, you
all
kind
my
of
social media is exactly like my Discord and all my chats and stuff like that. And it's cost me, a lot of friendships. It's hurt some people. And I got people that just will refuse to listen to me, will refuse to even give the podcast a shot. Because they just I guess I rub people the wrong way. Imagine me rubbing somebody the wrong way. But I mean, no. But I mean, I do have.
People are very passionate about their beliefs, and nowadays, now that everything's out, it's so easy. Yeah, people just don't want to deal, and they just nope.
And I think that's what my next question is how do you feel? And we talked about this on the morning show before, the divide. I always talk about the divide, and I always invite. And what. The reaction that I get from some of the people that I've asked that are on the other side of what we talk about just don't want to. They don't want to be. They don't want to be confrontated. They don't want the argument. And I'm going like, we're not going to argue. Let's have a discussion. Let's open the discussion because this divide is just growing bigger every day. And the problem is that we can't reel it in because each person or each group of people are on the cliff, right? And I mean, there's no place to fall. I mean, it's just an open pit. So what do you do? Go ahead, Christian.
Can I just jump in here for a second? This is another one we covered in one of the shows where I kind of went off on a tangent.
Yes.
A lot of people have so anchored themselves in their ideas that their ideas have become attached and part of them.
Right.
Yes.
And you can't have an idea of theirs be wrong. Sorry, they can't survive an idea of theirs being wrong, because that means they
Yes.
are wrong.
And the
And
tribe
people,
and the
people-
tribe will kick them out.
well, they themselves can't be wrong because it is an affront to them personally.
Yeah.
We've gotten to a point now where everyone is so, I can't think of the right word, but they're so attached to their perspective
It's almost a religion.
that
Passionate.
It's
Bruce,
almost
I
a
think
religion.
you just may have labeled it really what it is. They're
Yeah.
worshiping at their own temple.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my question that I was getting to is there any healing? Do we feel that there's any healing? Do you think that podcasting can be that healing source, or do you think it's more dividing?
Ooh, I think I think it depends on the person.
Hmm.
For some people, I think it's healing, but I think for most, I think it's dividing. And I think for people who wear their opinions and beliefs and passions very openly, such as yourself, you make this part of this is you, this is me, this is how I'm going to talk about it. I'm happy to discuss it openly. Some people, like, I'll use myself as an example. Like, I know how I feel, but I have businesses. So, like, I have so many people attached to my social.
Right.
I don't talk anything but like, yeah, I'm at the gym. Look at me, I'm hiking. Like, it's very, neutral. Had I thought about it originally when I set it up, or when I have like 800 friends. Like, I probably know half of them really, like, in person, that I interact with all the time. But it's a lot of associates and things. So, I can't quite wear my heart on my sleeve. So that's kind of where I can do this in
Right.
podcasting. But there's like Christian said, like, there's people, that's their whole being, this is it, like, whether they believe Trump or whether they are a Biden fan, like, they're so passionate about it. And like you said, they're not wrong, because that's their whole life is correct. They're on a mission. They're on a mission from God.
Not,
Yeah. Not unlike the Blues Brothers,
But the God is themselves.
Yes.
They're their own God.
Yeah.
And as soon as God is wrong, that means the entire universe falls apart.
Absolutely. And they
Yeah.
can't bear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can just jump in here, since I keep
Yeah, go ahead,
derailing the show,
Yeah.
No, you're fine.
I don't think it's going to be a thing that one individual person can heal.
Yeah.
I think this is a societal problem, and we have not matured to a point as a society to deal with the current environment where social media, the let's just call it aggressive 24-hour news cycle, and
Yeah.
all of the influencers, personalities, we all give them way too much credit. Not we all.
Mhm.
That's the kind of collective. I'm going to be lazy here with the description, but we collectively give them all a pass and take what they say as too close to gospel. Instead of, I don't give a shit what Tom Hanks thinks about politics. I
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
care. Why should I? He can barely act.
Yeah.
Why
But
should
I'll
we
definitely
listen
talk
to him
about
about politics? I mean, he did a couple of decent movies. They were entertaining.
Yeah.
But I don't care what he thinks about politics.
He's an actor. So what?
Yeah.
You
There's
get
too
paid
many
to
people.
pretend every day.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
You read lines that other people wrote. Not all the time, but often.
Most of them.
And so I think we as a society, we have to mature past the point where we think all these people, that they matter. And as soon as we start valuing ourselves enough where we can matter to ourselves instead of being dependent upon whatever, I think then we'll have real maturity and we can move past some of this petty bickering.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll get to that?
No, not anytime.
No,
No,
not anytime soon.
no,
I don't think so either.
I think it's going to be so well, or it will be again the slow turning of the boat.
Yeah.
And over time, we'll just kind of grow out of this. Not the social media, because I think we're not going to get rid of that. But the petty,
Mm.
or not the petty, the valuing pointless perspective.
Mm.
I can see that.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if another 9/11 is going to be our rallying point again, where we all started caring about our neighbor and stuff like that. And it's sad to say, because, I've been in this podcasting business since I think 2016 now, and it's just getting wider. And as hard as I try to when I use my heart, when I use my sleeve, when I use my post, sometimes they could be a little bit gravelly, of course, but there's a meaning behind them. There's a calling behind it. And that's what my calling has been. I shouldn't be here. There's 2 times I've been on the hospital bed, and I shouldn't be here. So my calling is this, and that's what I do. So I try to be as honest as I can, but a little animated to be entertaining, a little comedian, sometimes, and a little gravelly sometimes. And I think the world needs that, because I don't think the slow peeling of the Band-Aid works anymore. I think you have to pull it all the way off at one time to get people to shock up and say, and realize, what's happening around them. But I'm not sure that's the best way to heal the world either. So,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
yeah.
I feel like it's like my world is surrounded by Band-Aids getting ripped off. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
put on the news, this, and then something happens. I'm like, I can't do anymore.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate sometimes the quickness of things, but sometimes it's just so much. And
Right.
again, to dial back to like having to back out with social media. There's no, when CNN first came out, you had to turn on the TV to hear it, and you could just shut the TV. It's impossible to block yourself out unless you physically push all your electronics away. Phone,
You
laptop.
turn it off.
Yep.
Turn it off.
And it is difficult though
It
to
is.
have that. It's so easy. It's just right
Information at
there.
your fingertips.
I know. And it's a constant barrage, whether it's right or wrong. It's who's first.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm just like, there's no end to the internet. You know what I mean?
No.
Until
I've
you
been trying to find the last page for a while, and I can't find it. So
every once in a while, my husband's like falling asleep. He's like, I found the last page. I got to go to bed. But the two of us, sometimes we will sit in the same room with the show on, and the two of us are scrolling.
Right.
Sometimes there's not much conversation. I'm like, we got to talk to you. Like, hey, what's up? Like maybe you put your phone down. We can see what's going on. But I'm just as guilty.
Yeah.
And it's my attention span. A lot of things have changed.
Yeah.
With that. So,
Kate, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
You're so
How great it was. And I can't wait to have you back. We can talk for another hour, but I know you have to get up at 4 to go to the gym. So
I'll be getting up at 4:30. So 4 hours.
4 hours.
Watching Christian.
We're going to be respectful of your time. I just really appreciate you coming on the show for so late, being in New Jersey and everything.
I'm a trooper.
What can I say? Exactly. And go ahead and plug the show, because I'm going to bring that back up again and show everybody the page.
So I'm the one of 2 mics on the Boomer Bunker with my co-host John Domingo. We love for you to join us. We live stream the recording of our podcast. So we are live on, oh my goodness, X, Rumble, Twitch, Facebook, somewhere else, but all the socials. You can find us at boomerbunker.com, and come on over and play with us. We have a great time. And we love our live audience. And if you can't listen live, follow us on your favorite streaming platform and just download us.
Absolutely. And you can get us here. You can just like, share, and subscribe to this podcast if you like it. You can get us on Rumble. You can get us on YouTube. You can get us on X. You can get us everywhere. We have a morning show called The Weathered View. It's on every morning at 6 a.m. Pacific time. And you can get that on your favorite podcast app. Also, somewhere around noon, 5 o'clock, depending on where producer Jason kind of gets it to me. And sometimes I get too involved, and I have to post a double show on Tuesday or maybe on Thursday because I forget to post a show. But we're always there live every morning, Monday through Friday. So, like I said, share, and subscribe to either one of the shows. Get us on your podcast apps. Share this with 4 of your friends and 1 other friend. And I promise that we're going to be back next week with another show. Christian, thank you for being here and being a part of the podcast. The only one that showed up tonight other than Duchess here, because she was the guest. And I hope that Jason has got his house done and that Ken is having a real good time at the Tiki convention. What do you got, Christian?
I was just going to say, I was just going to let you 2 do the show. Then you wouldn't have anybody there to just take things off the rail and stand there or to sit here just glassy eyed wondering what's
Oh.
going to happen next. Somebody had to play the part, so I thought I'd
Oh,
talk about
well,
it.
it was always lovely to have you here.
Well, and thanks, Duchess, for being on the show.
I appreciate it.
And we may not believe or have in mind the same perspective when it comes to politics,
Mm.
societal evolution, or whatever. But having a good conversation is important. And even though we've only talked a couple of times, you seem like a person that you can just have a conversation with.
I think so.
And everything's just great. So thanks for being on.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great.
Appreciate that.
Well, I'll leave you like I leave you guys every week. You guys have a great week because we'll have another show next week. Another live show with Ken and probably Jason here.
Nah.
And you guys just have a great week and be good to yourselves. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.